In July 2010, in the city of California, Los Angeles County, the Department of Fire Service received a report of a fire outbreak. A forest was burning several kilometers outside of Lake Hollywood Park. Firefighters immediately arrived in the area. At first, they believed the cause of the fire was the ongoing drought, which had already caused hundreds of wildfires across America that summer. But this time, nature wasn't to blame. While extinguishing the fire, they made a shocking discovery: a Lexus vehicle. Hidden among the burning trees was a Lexus car. It was clear that this once luxurious vehicle had become the source of the fire. Someone had driven it there, set it ablaze, and disappeared without a trace. But why destroy such an expensive car in this way? The vehicle had clearly been in an accident before it was set on fire. Could it be that someone had hit and killed a person, then tried to destroy the evidence? The firefighters quickly alerted the police, but by the time the detective arrived at the scene, they had already discovered that there had been no recent reports of a serious crash involving a Lexus in Los Angeles County. Could the car have been stolen and used for a crime? Or maybe the owner's children had taken it without permission, and when an accident occurred, they decided to make it look like the car had been stolen. Only one person could answer these questions: the car's owner. Luckily, identifying the owner wasn't difficult. The detectives had carefully removed the license plates but overlooked one crucial detail: the vehicle's engine wish could still provide key information. The Lexus belonged to 30-year-old Chris Tyler, an engineer at a local energy company, Waste Fuel, in Los Angeles. The car hadn't been reported as stolen, but as investigators dug deeper, they uncovered a chilling fact. Chris Tyler had been missing for over a week. The police report was filed by his mother. She stated that Chris had gone swimming with friends and disappeared. It was Friday after work. When Chris didn't return home that evening, she wasn't immediately worried. After all, her son was an adult and it was summer. However, when he didn't show up at the start of the work week and hadn't called even once, she decided something was wrong. The officers at the nearest police station found her concern justified, and after Chris's car was found burned, the city's police department opened a criminal case regarding his disappearance. It was possible that a murder had been committed, but who could have killed the engineer? Robbers who stole his expensive car. Such crimes are not uncommon these days. 3 years ago, California was shaken by the brutal murder of a young couple. 2 thugs killed the young couples to steal their Honda Accord. They wanted to sell the car and live lavishly on the proceeds. A couple from Atlanta went to a district to close a deal to a car. Soon her body was found in the neighboring city close to Atlanta. Then, a suspect in her disappearance was detained. The car had caught the eye of her buyer, a homeless man who was a drug addict. He strangled the seller of the Honda car, hid the body in the yard, and took the car for an auction. However, on the highway, he lost control, crashed into a tree, and left the car there, returning home by hiking. Investigating Chris Tyler's car angle, detectives asked a question. How did a young engineer afford a car worth over $500,000 when his salary was only $10,000? It turned out Emil had a source of income unrelated to his job. The guy was passionate about football. He could name the lineup of any European team, whether from 1956 or 1990, bought lottery tickets, games in the gas station, and when computers appeared, he became an expert sport betting for wealthy people. He also spent hours online analyzing matches played by professionals. This hobby evolved into a passion for sports betting. He became so skilled that he could predict the outcome of any match with high probability, and this started bringing in money. One of his biggest wins allowed Chris to become the owner of a luxurious Lexus car. It had been his longtime dream. Chris had dreamt of driving a luxurious car since childhood. Detectives grew intrigued by his ties to betting companies. Maybe he had another huge win, so large that someone decided it was easier to eliminate him than to pay up. Or perhaps Chris did receive his winnings, but bookies planned to reclaim it under the guise of a robbery. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Chris loaned his winnings out or sank into debt trying to recoup losses. However, the financial angle quickly receded. Detectives uncovered that Chris had another passion and dream. Hopes that Chris Tyler might return home were nearly gone, but his body had yet to be found. The question of where to find the killer also remained unclear. Detectives discovered that until recently, Chris had been married. His marriage lasted about 4 years, but was divorced due to arguing with his wife. He loved his young son dearly, but looked forward to loving a different woman as his life partner. He believed a wife should be younger so he could mold and raise her according to his standard. But why did Chris desire such a woman? He himself grew up in a different environment. Chris's father died when he was a boy, and he was raised by his grandmother and mother. Such men often prefer strong, leading women, but Chris's friends were convinced he was simply old-fashioned, in the best sense of the word. He was brought up to like younger girls. Chris always felt that the girls, from ladies of his ages or older, weren't for him. He couldn't relate to women who measured everything by money. For a long time, Chris didn't have a girlfriend because he sought his ideal. After ending his imperfect marriage, Chris decided he would be truly happy with a girl who is a virgin, so that he would be the first and only. Shortly before his disappearance, Chris hinted to his closest friend, Jihad, that his dream might soon come true. He was dating a girl who he would soon introduce to his friends and family. For some reason, Jihad felt more worried than happy for his friend. Detectives learned that the missing Chris Tyler had a new relationship, though she was hardly a full-grown lady. The girl was not yet 16, and their relationship had not been made public. The girl hid behind a fake ID her nickname Cherry Lady. Why did Chris reach out to her in the first place remained a mystery to the detectives. They discovered the girl's existence while combing through Chris's electronic contacts. Specialists cracked the necessary passwords to his computers, and the detectives gained access to all his personal details. The name Cherry Lady immediately caught their attention. On the day of Chris's disappearance, she had been persuading him to go to an Airbnb with her friends from early morning. Around 6, Chris informed the girl that he was leaving work, would stop by home to change clothes, and would be with her within an hour and a half to 2 hours. Why didn't he return from this meeting? The identity of Chris's young girlfriend was quickly established. Karina Alexander, a 9th grader, lived with her mother and studied at a school in Los Angeles County, from which she was expelled for truancy. She tried to continue her studies at 2 other schools, but didn't get along with the teaching staff. Interestingly, not long ago, Karina was considered one of the best students. Why did an honors student suddenly turn into a truant and expelled at a decent school? Her mother reported she had fallen seriously ill, and Karina had to take care of her. The condition of the mother's illness and why she allowed her teenage daughter to sacrifice her studies remain unknown. By the time law enforcement took an interest in the girl, the mother had recovered. However, her own dating life is still more interested in her than Karina's. The mother sought a life partner, paying little attention to her child. She was looking for a suitor through the internet, a popular method today. It seems Karina decided to follow her example. Her relationship with Chris developed gradually. Weeks of meeting and going out on dinner somehow convinced Chris she was the one. Fragile, beautiful, inexperienced, a delicate virgin flower that would bloom fully under his care and protection. It was unclear if Chris and Karina even got to the point of kissing. Chris didn't want to rush things, as the girl assured him of her innocence. Yet he rented an apartment for her in California, heard about her school problems, and decided she could start studying again in the city. By the way, the 15-year-old girl moved to an apartment financed by an adult male approved by her own mother's approval. However, it soon turned out that Karina intended to live there not alone, but with almost a dozen friends. Chris disagreed. Karina got upset and ran away from the apartment. but not from his life. The detectives brought the girl in for questioning. She claimed that their meeting on the day he disappeared never happened. Allegedly, Chris didn't meet her that day. The detectives couldn't immediately prove otherwise. Karina was sent home. However, no one planned to let her out of sight. The detective team began studying the schoolgirl's circle of friends. It soon became clear she wasn't as innocent as she seemed. Karina is associated with criminals. Among her friends were 2 convicted of burglary. Rosemary Pius, 22 years old, unemployed, had been tried for theft and causing murder. She attacked a victim with a knife, and Nikolai Pankov, 19 years old, had a suspended sentence for car theft. The detectives questioned neighbors, villagers, and classmates about the girls and Karina. Eventually, they heard something interesting. Information came in that some guys had gotten hold of a luxury car. They tried to sell it, but something stopped them, and they just got rid of the vehicle. Chris's burned Lexus was found not far from the village where Karina and her friends lived. This was hardly a simple coincidence. The girl was summoned for investigation again. This time she refused to testify at all, despite being questioned as a witness. In the next rooms, the detectives worked with Pankov and Rosemary. One of the girls was more of a talkative and decided to confess. The detectives were shocked to hear that Chris Tyler had been killed, but the detailed account of the crime specifically shocked even the most experienced among the detectives. Nikolai Pankov confessed to killing Chris Tyler, but revealed he wasn't the only participant and not the mastermind. He disclosed that he acted according to a plan given by Karina. Karina's right-hand man was another close friend, 16-year-old Daniel Mark, who also hadn't finished school. The teenager's plan was simple. Karina lured Chris to the Airbnb, introduced Daniel as her brother, and Rosemary and Pankov as her friends. Then played the role of seducing Chris, feeding him with some homemade soup. Little did he know what spices his so-called girlfriend had used. Karina and Rosemary were supposed to add sleeping pills. The 4 of them would then beat the sleeping Chris Tyler to death, bury the body in a nearby forest. Before that, they would take everything valuable from his pockets, including, of course, the car keys. The car would be their main prize, making them rich and independent from their parents. The detectives believed Pankov, who claimed that the crime was planned by Karina. But it was hard to fathom how a 15-year-old girl came up with this. During the investigation, Karina didn't hide that she had no tender romantic feelings for Chris. The 30-year-old Chris died horribly. From the start, everything went wrong. The sleeping pills didn't take effect. The girls waited and decided to test if she could resist or if the pills would work. They started kicking Chris, hitting him hard. He tried to wake up at first to leave. However, Karina persuaded him to ignore the stress and rest on her laps. Continuing to caress him, she told him that she looked tired and suggested he lie down to rest. The young man, who fell weak and dizzy, agreed. As soon as he lay in bed, her friends burst in. They first hit Chris with a shovel, delivering dozens of blows. Rosemary was actively helped by 16-year-old Daniel. He hit the man on the head with a frying pan, then brought a sledgehammer and hit him on the head. When the girls thought it was over, they dragged Chris to the car. They put the body in the trunk and drove to the forest as planned. But Chris woke up again. Then Daniel and Rosemary finished him off with a spade to the throat. The man fell silent forever. But even that wasn't enough for the girls. Making sure Chris was dead, Daniel took up the knife again, and he cut off Chris's head. He took it in his hands and started filming with his mobile phone. During the investigation, he showed the record clip to the detective in a rather original way. Chris Tyler wanted to show Karina his love. But love for Karina didn't stop the girls from sending this promising young man to an early grave. All of them were tried by the court and were given prison time accordingly. The organizers of Chris Tyler's murder faced a maximum of 10 years in prison. The law back then didn't allow for longer sentences for minors, but things have changed as of now. Will anyone love Karina when she gets out? Like and subscribe to see more videos from us. That's all for today. See you in the next video.